justice. So what I propose is that during transitions, either from war, I will be focused on after war, but some of my dilemmas can apply for non-democracy to democracy transitions. What I call dilemmas, because if you have a transition, you have to make choices. The problem is, if you have 3 cycles or 3 issues among conflict, war, peace, or democracy, choosing peace might undermine the foundation of democracy, and choosing a democracy can lead to more conflict, therefore going back to the cycle of war, and therefore not being democratic. I could explain that in a video that I made of 1 minute and 30 seconds to help you with the time, but I chose to go forward from that, and if anyone needs more explanation on my methodology, I can explain later. Anyway, the war is over, the conflict is over. My question is, what's next? And as we know, to a transition, a lot of choices must be made. And if we play with the idea of democracy is from the people, by the people, and for the people, justice would be from the people, by the people, and for the people. If it would be if it is a democratic analogy. However, we know after war there is no such a thing. Oh, democracy is there, peace is there, therefore justice is there. We know that that is not true. It's a naive point of view. But there is this false expectation that the international will be the savior, so that explains the international as neo-colonials. That Zoran would explain after that. Of course, it takes time. What is peace and what is justice? No doubt, the literature seems to overlap the notion of peace and justice. Peace, as understood as the absence of violence, is not enough. Peace is more and more adding the value of the presence of justice. As I could not do it differently, I have to include the gender balance. Justice, somehow, there's always this figure that is a woman that will come and fix everything. There's always this female version of justice. However, we know that 80% of the victims after conflict are generally women as well. They are not part usually of the transitional perspective. For the international point of view, including the UN, peace, justice, and a strong institution is always present in any transition after war. How to implement it is still question mark. So how efficient is that? Question mark. Going back to my dilemmas, peace can be opposed against democracy and vice versa. Civil war, reconciliation endeavors, human rights, amnesty, and transitional legal apparatus can be a democratic injustice as much as an undemocratic justice affair. So therefore we put, as Axel said, an injustice transition. Transitional justice seems more about achieving the goals of political transition instead of about fulfilling the demands of moral and legal justice, as we've understood this morning about the fantastic book. Consequently, it frequently leaves the so-called will for justice. So after conflict, there is this demand, I want justice. No one would say, oh, I don't want peace, I don't want democracy. There is this, I need justice because I need peace and because I need democracy. But the lack of democratic progress and institutions are not there, leaves this problem, this lack in society, and for the sake of democracy, but also for the peace as justice is a question mark. All sides of conflict will vindicate that their acts were motivated by justice for both sides. The literature already set a system of 4 major dilemmas that were mentioned many times during this morning. Normally we say democracy, if it's from the people, you have this ownership, should be yours. You should agree with the contract with your state, with your constitution. We should have a consensus on that to protect human rights or the basic rights. However, most of the time it's imposed. Or, as we know, including the International Court of Justice, they are international actors who know less, or not the language, there's a cultural barrier, or they are motivated by high salary or prestige, status. So there is also always this imposition. So there is a dilemma between local and international ownership. There is also a vertical dilemma, which is related to the efficacy and legitimacy of the process. And that is related to the elites. Is the rule of the law or the law of the ruler? There is also a horizontal dilemma in transition. Who do we include? So I'll give you the case of amnesty. Should we give amnesty for everyone? That would be democratic. Is that fair? Is that legitimate? Is that efficient? The war, let's assume that the war is end now in Syria. Can Assad be given amnesty and through a democratic process, due to a lack of other leaders, run for politics again? There are questions, but if not, what do you do? Who do you include and who do you exclude? And you can apply that to any case that you want. And as you know, any transition time, there is this perspective that never ends, and we mentioned that yesterday. If the process is too short, the sense of justice can be distorted. And if it takes too long, the same applies. Where is the balance of when is the time to have a fully democracy, or finish the transition, or fulfill all the justice wishes? Normally, when we play with democracy and justice, we usually play with this image. I just wanted to use this image to apply to my dilemmas on amnesty, for example, or the International Court, or the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Where is the legitimacy? Where is the sense of impunity, the efficiency, the inclusion or exclusion? And it's all about of design, and that it's done by political decisions or political choices. So therefore, political choices take predominance over technical choices that can be inefficient, illegitimate, and creates more sense of impunity. Moving from the 4 dilemmas that I just explained now, I created 10 more. So I've explored other dilemmas. I will not have time to go one by one, but as you know, we have moral dilemmas, we have security dilemmas. Should I even go to the court of justice? Where am I, even if I accept as a state to have an international court, there's create security question as well as safety. I distinguish safety from security. One is safety is more individual, and security as more state or more related to international law. So going back to my triangle, war, peace, and democracy, and how those 3 circles coexist, we know that can lead to the tyranny of the majority, the more justice can not necessarily lead to more peace, or even less democracy, and therefore you can play with that. I try to have some expression from the region. So I found this one from Macedonia. So where force rules, justice does not exist. So I relate that to a security dilemma of coercion, as the state trying to protect those basic rights or the state itself as a coexistence or an existent issue would be oppressive and therefore undemocratic and unpeaceful. If justice is delayed, is also justice denied. In the absence of justice, what is sovereignty but organized robbery? We can see that with a lot of corruption cases in all transition cases. But also we've been talking a lot about the morality of the transition aspect, including up to when should I obey to orders. So on a time frame, I just gave him here using my dilemmas regarding amnesty, the protection of human rights as presented by Thomas, and this seek for justice. On a time frame, on this transition, I understand those three as exactly as it is, gears. One dilemma leads to another, one issue leads to another. If you don't solve one, which takes time, you will lead to other questions. And just to break the ice, I wanted to show, analyze a little bit more these comics. Is there justice without freedom? Is there freedom without fairness? We could argue on a philosophical level. But who decides what is fair? Me who? The state? Me who? The international community? Who is me in that coming that picture? But in any case, in that picture shows that there are moral dilemmas. There is a systemic dilemma. There is a transparency dilemma. When I decide I don't need to be accountable, I've just decided that that's it, I impose. There is a vertical dilemma with the elites and the people. There is a horizontal dilemma. And there is also what I call the axiomatic dilemma, which is this: what is peace and what is democracy, and one goes against each other. Again, I understand this is as a system of many dilemmas that must be addressed on a transition time. To finish, during the transition time, justice leads to things that happen during the war with a perspective of what was before the war. There is a clear overlapping of what is in the transition time, or what is just in bellum, just ad bellum, and just post bellum. Peace is more important than no justice, so I believe that peace comes before justice. If you want to play with preposition, as I was doing before, by, from, for. So maybe peace comes with justice, and perhaps before. But it's not, certainly it's not peace or justice. It's not one or the other, but one with the other. And I do think, Thomas, that is essential, an essential element, more than a necessary or a favorite one, to have justice for peace and democracy. Open for discussions. And I just want to say that there is no such a thing as half justice or half peace.